Hey everyone, welcome to This Week in Caribbean Tech. It's of course the weekly podcast that brings you the top Caribbean tech news, of course some global news in there, and we try to basically connect the dots for you, give you insights, and of course unfiltered insights from all of this, just to make sure that you are staying ahead of what is important to you and your business. They call me Ingrid Riley and they tell me that I'm the founder of Silicon Carib. And with me over there is my co-host who's not in his Trini colors today. What's going on?
Hi, I'm Daniel Smith. I'm the co-host and I am the CEO of Keepingly. But we were missing last week because somebody had a birthday. So Ingrid, happy belated birthday. I didn't get to show you with birthday blessings on your birthday because
you were
way too busy for the little people. You were way too busy for the little people. So
no, it was good. I took off from Thursday and just decided going to go with the flow. And so my friends were wonderful. And so it was a time of rest and fun and laughter. And so yes, I'm 1 year old, 1 year older, they say. But since I've clawed back a couple of the pandemic years, I'm cool. I took those back. I reclaimed my time.
Okay, ma'am. Hey, I love how that works. I'm going to use it because my birthday is in a few days myself. So hey, I exactly will do the same.
Absolutely. So let me get started with this. Yeah. So we have a couple things on the docket for sure. We're going to be talking about Jamaica's newest crowdfunding platform, about this thing called cyber attacks and cybersecurity trends in the Caribbean, what's going on with the ride-sharing market in Jamaica. We have government talking about things that they want to do for the young people again in the area of tech. And, we have a couple of other things, especially around like a quick status check on innovation hubs across the region. And there are a couple of events that we want to tell you about. And of course, yes, we're going to be talking about Mr. Musk and him and his new Twitter toy. But anyway, at the top, we start out with the Jamaica's newest crowdfunding platform called Amber Fund Me. That name may seem familiar. If you've been paying attention or listening or watching or podcast, you'd hear us talking about Amber. So Amber Fund Me is Jamaica's newest crowdfunding platform with the sole mission, they say, of empowering businesses and social enterprises with a platform for them to raise funds and have an impact on the world. Now, Amber, it's the same Amber. Another subsidiary coming from that group of companies that really have not gotten some great, gotten a lot of negative attention over the last 2 years because they've been, basically held responsible because, of course, they're the ones who develop the platforms and manage the platforms as these entities. They got some negative attention around data breaches. And there were not cyber attacks, there were data breaches. And it's weird enough, the first one was around Jam COVID app, which was the app that the government of Jamaica was using to collect data and to manage the flow of Jamaicans and travelers in and out of the island. And so a lot of that data just went out the door. In other words, no, a back door was left open. That's pretty much what it was summed up. And somebody just like, oh my God, I forgot to close that door, and somebody went in and took shit or exposed shit. And then recently, again, another data breach, around the Jamaica's main light and power company called JPS. And again, the breaches were the same. And so it's weird, I know. I just started off with announcing that they just launched a crowdfunding platform and then talk about, but these are the same guys that are responsible for, or should I say, have responsibility for the data breaches that happened under their watch, because we don't want nobody come try sue me. Yeah, so your thoughts around this, Daniel?
Who's guarding the gods? That's what the Fund Me initiative obviously is a good one. I think that we need more of those, especially around Caribbean entrepreneurs and social enterprises. And so it
Yes.
does provide that kind of opportunities. But I think that in the week that we took off because somebody had a birthday, one of the things that really came up, I think, was the JPS security breach, and the other one on Massey, which we'll get into. So I think that I don't know how comfortable I am with this entity. If they want to control my money when on multiple occasions you have built products that have kind of left doors open to, vulnerabilities in terms of what the system has. So that gives me pause for concern. If they can show that they have done the necessary work to make sure that they're securing people's information, money, and most of all, their cyber identity, I think that would put me at least ease some of my concerns. But as it is, I don't know that they've said anything around, and I don't know if people like Ingrid have asked them, because I know even with the JPS, even with the JPS stuff, that kind of blew up on Twitter, and we had the guy from TechCrunch who was going all in on Amber Group again. So, that I don't know who asked the questions, but I think that those are questions that are relevant and need to be asked.
Well, I haven't been combing the local media in Jamaica, but yes, the TechCrunch dude, Zach, when Zach basically, and here's the thing, the latest article, which was of course around the JPS breach, was behind the cleaners paywall, because they broke the news. And Zach was like, you know what, no, this should not be beyond the behind the paywall. So he took snapshots and made it public on his Twitter, and everybody's like, welcome back, Zach. Because again, it was somebody who is a cyber expert reporter from a technology blog, and he was one covering Jam COVID, and he was asking key questions. And again, he was helping people to understand the nature of the breach, and the breach was pretty much similar to what had happened before. So it brings, again, he's right, who is guarding the guards and who is asking the questions? Like, why is it that they seem to have fool me, catch me once, fine, but catch me twice, you kind of start to see a trend, and you wonder, well, do they have the right people working with them? Do they have proper quality assurance systems in place? Because we are talking about people's data, and we all know that data is of extreme value. Wherever you are in the world, somebody's going to pay millions and millions of dollars for it. And so again, we wonder what the hell is going on. Now, something happened in your country. Tell us about that.
So it's a company that originates in my country, but when I read through the story, I think it actually happened in Jamaica. So Massey Stores and Massey Distribution Trinidad say that data was unlawfully accessed by hackers during a cyber attack back in April, and that are more extensive than the preliminary stages of the investigation revealed in the preliminary stages.
Right.
So apparently 3 weeks ago, there was a massive data dump of like 70,000 files. And it had really personal information, how much people are getting paid, other details around where, work matters and stuff like that. So they issued a statement and said, as such, and as a matter of urgency, the company will be taking steps to identify and notify all additional parties whose information may have been unlawfully accessed, they said in a release. And then they went on to say it is investigating the claims that international ransomware group had dumped the 700,000 files, revealing the personal information of staff, customers, following the hack earlier this year. So apparently this ransomware group had them try to hold the information to ransom for like more than 5 months. And then it was like, you know what, we're going to just put it out there. So 700,000 files were in the black web or the dark web, and the information of employees, customers, etc. is out there. And when I first saw it, because I knew about the hack back in April, but I think that just the data dump, that part I didn't get wind of until like 3 weeks ago. And the red flag started going up because Ingrid, you know, I'm always okay, how are we protecting customer data? How are we protecting people's information? How are we making sure that at the end of the day, that the information that we put out there is secure? And the questions that we have to start asking these entities are, when my information is compromised, can I turn around and sue you?
Mm-hmm. That comes down to the laws, which is one of the questions that I was asking. I was like, I know that like the data protection and privacy laws are going to be enacted next year in Jamaica. I from what I checked, you guys in Trinidad don't have that, those laws in place right now, do you?
We do have some. I think that they're in the process of updating some, but I know that there were some data protection laws that were implemented, and you know, I think that they need to update them. So I think that the last I heard was that they were in the process, or they need to be declared, or somewhere in the process of getting some update on the laws. But yeah, I think that it may be, you know, running similar in terms of where those laws are. But I think more importantly, with all these data breaches and what I found the most startling is that, you know, when you live internationally, so Experian would get hacked, or you know, and their data, and they would send you, hey, we experienced a breach and your data may have been compromised. We are looking into this. Do these entities in the Caribbean take similar measures to inform their customers about what is going on?
No. No, not at all. And that is where those are the key questions that we have to ask. For me, having read about these breaches and read about these cyber attacks, it raises more questions than anything else. Questions about are these companies, questions about the context in which these companies are operating. You know, what is the law of the land that protects customers and anybody's data, their digital identities? What is the law of the land around that? Secondly, what are these Caribbean companies doing to hire the right people, to do the right thing for them as an entity, but also for their customers? I'm just not understanding why. And you know, it's so often, sometimes I think we get desensitized because we keep hearing about this breach here and that breach here. And while I understand that cyber attacks happen daily, hourly, minutely, all around the world, I've been shown a cyber attack map as well, as from a local cybersecurity expert, just showing what is happening where in the world, and it was live. It's a lot happening.
Yeah.
But that's been the case for a while. So it really kind of, for me, it's like, listen, Caribbean entities need to basically shore up their cybersecurity experts. They need to shore up their you know, legal teams, because at some point you're going to hear that customers are going to start to be very, very pissy about how you protect their data. But also that I think it also engenders further distrust of giving information to to these entities, and don't want to do business with them. That is part of, unfortunately, the culture that will stymie, I think, people engaging in e-commerce, in, you know, doing getting an understanding and using things like digital cash, which is, God, we need to get our act together. But for me, I always think business-wise, what are the business opportunities here?
Right. Agreed.
One, people who understand data privacy and data protection laws, people who understand cybersecurity trends, and what are the tools and tactics and that need to be in place to protect companies and protect their customers and their staff. And yeah, we need some guards who guard the guard. So for me, those are potential opportunities for somebody, some people to get into starting businesses around that. And anybody who can teach, enable, you know, an increasing, you know, cadre of cybersecurity experts and data protection and data law experts in the region, making bank. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents for now.
I think that what I 100% agree with you, and I would add though that we need to understand, especially as consumers, how uh, how do entities view this? Are they putting a high priority on our data protection? So I don't know if it's like starting to develop campaigns around, hey, we are this company and your data and protecting your data is important to us.
Mhm.
Because, you know, a CTO, which is a chief technical officer, who has some cyber background, maybe, you know, more expensive to keep on staff. And our companies cutting budgets to make sure or to ensure that they save on this, but in the long run, putting customers' data and information at risk.
Yeah.
So I do think that we as the public need to see that they take this seriously, to your point, but also on wanting to understand, you know, okay, so I am XYZ company and this is our CTO and he has a, you know, a cybersecurity, you know, background or training or whatever the case may be. So at least we feel comfort. And I do think that that is also part, and it does possibly start at the governmental level, because I don't know how much, because remember, the government now is going to also be shifting to a lot of things online. How are even governments implementing around cybersecurity and citizens' data? You know, because we can know about Massey's hack, but if they see from the government, do we even know?
Yeah, that's correct. And so again, for me, it's about what are we doing to make sure that we have a lot more, you know, cybersecurity data, you know, protection experts in the region. Because one of the things that came out from this Massey hack was that the person who was in charge of it didn't know jack shit. They were pretty much doing, you know, the whole thing, you know, typical, unfortunate, the Caribbean companies thing where they put 3 roles into one and pay you for one. And so, you know, look at something about that. All right, cool. Rope in and we'll just tack it on to whatever it is that we really hired you for. And so what you have, you get what you pay for. So yeah, that's what happens there. But anyway, but we're gonna again keep watch and see what these Caribbean companies. But I need to get maybe like Trevor Forrest on, or Melanie Winter on to talk about cybersecurity laws and what we're doing in terms of the other side, which is cybersecurity talent and experts. So we don't always have to keep hiring from outside. All right, cool. Well, on to other matters.
Less distracting matters.
Yes.
Let's have fun time.
It's fun. It's for me, this is fun anyway. So we had, if you'd been listening or watching us here on This Week in Caribbean Tech, you'd hear that we've basically been covering the Caribbean ride-sharing market, but specifically the Jamaican ride-sharing market, because that's really the one that is hot, Jamaica and Trinidad. So you must have heard us talking about that Uber, which is American owned, and InDriver, which is Russian owned, are in the Jamaican rideshare market. And while Uber is focused on simply rides, InDriver started out with rides at a point when Uber was having some difficulty in the market. Then they now launched into doing courier or delivery. Recently, what is real about that? QuickCart, which is, you know, the Jamaica's leading online food ordering and delivery company, now have gotten into the ride sharing business. So QuickCart rides just launched in beta last week. And so they're there to compete with Uber and InDriver. So of course, that's one of the ones that signed up early for the beta testing and downloaded the app and got my money to test it out. But no drivers are in there. Well, I haven't tried it since the weekend, but I was trying to go somewhere, but I couldn't get anywhere because no drivers were on it yet. But they are in beta. And I think what they're doing right now is seeing, like observing demand patterns. Like, you know, I'm here, I want to go, you know, to Uncorked, you know, in Manor Park, or I'm here and I want to go to to the movie theater. So they're doing that now, and then maybe probably roll out the drivers accordingly. So we will see. So QuickCart rides just beta launched in Jamaica, and I believe I think they probably have they're gonna do some beta launching in Trinidad, which they just moved their
I know
food ordering, food and food delivery business into. So yeah, exciting times in the ride sharing place, man.
I want us to get Monique on, man. I wanna
We're gonna show the caller and ask her on. Absolutely.
I think that we need to understand just how Monique views her competition, because she's
Yes.
getting into a pretty crowded market.
Yeah.
It's InDriver and we've heard the stories and Uber, and so a third, or is that the fourth?
Yeah, it's a fourth, because I mean QuickCart, of course, is Jamaican owned, and it's owned by its CEO is Monique Powell, and so yeah, so they're the local ones that is fighting the two international ones. Yeah.
Okay.
David versus Goliath, some could say, but yeah, it'll be interesting, as you're right. How does Monique perceive her competition? Does she believe that because she has had, a 6-year head start in terms of drumming up brand visibility, brand trust in the market, she's hoping that will convert now into this QuickCart rides segment. So we're going to ask her on and see. I think we have interviews next week. We're going to ask her to come the following week and talk about that and everything. But yeah. All right. So on to the next one. We try not to talk too much about the Caribbean governments here. We prefer to speak about entrepreneurs and people who actually do shit. Don't come for me. But anyway, but I'm sorry, I just don't like the game of politics. But anyway, the government of Jamaica says they want to again position Jamaica to own technology and own our future. For them, that means they're going to launch what they call STEAM academies to help to reshape the society. Basically, what it's doing, they want to set up some schools that will teach young people certain skills. Newsflash 1, this is not new. Newsflash 2, this is a horse of a different name. They have previously made announcements about what was called, I think, ICT youth centers. So I think this is probably maybe like an upgraded version of that. And so they are, positioning, is it that Jamaica needs to own technology and own their future. So they're going to be launching 6 STEAM, which is of course science, technology, energy, arts, and math. Glad that of course that they include the A, because of course we are a global cultural force. So it's good that they have the STEAM in there. So they've assigned $133 million to this, and so we will see what happens here. The first one they say is the first academy is being constructed on lands which fall under the government's Bernard Lodge development plan, 76 acres, and so the Minister of Youth and Education, Favour Williams, so that this is going to roll out, and they're hoping to basically start with 2,400 students. What do you think of this? You're on the outside looking in, sir. I'm a little bit too cynical sometimes, but go ahead.
Clearly, you sat on boards and you've had inside access to a lot of the machinations of these things over the years. So I know it's exhausting. Trust me, I can feel it in just the way you described it. But
I want to succeed, but I'm tired of the announcements, because I've heard some of this before and nothing comes of it. And so I'm trying not to be cynical, but I'll continue to be patient and see what actually happens from this. So yeah,
I think that again, to me, anything that encourages the youth and allows them or pushes them towards, how we become relevant as a society and how do we transform, because it's one thing for the announcement to be made, is another thing for it to become implemented, and the last part of it is seeing the results. I think that I'd always say you have to hold them to the fire, you have to make them accountable. Accountability is one of those words that I believe in, because as an entrepreneur, what we have to do is be accountable, whether it's to our customers, to our stakeholders, i.e. investors, other shareholders, employees, everybody. We have to be accountable.
Yeah.
So accountability is one of those words that I think that we need to figure out how it fits in. But initiatives like these can work, but we need to understand how it progresses. So I like you, have seen a lot of things that have been done in Trinidad, or in even some of these other smaller Caribbean islands. I was a part of some EU project where we had to go in and, help these countries and help entrepreneurs do stuff. And then the question would always be asked, okay, so what happens after this, or what happens after you get them? And European Union spent a lot of money in terms of some of these things sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you start asking about what is the ROI on some of those investments. So I like you understand that we need more accountability, but I think that if we don't understand what has gone before, and we don't understand how what are the successes and the failures of projects like these before, then sometimes it's just spinning top in mud. So on the outside of this, I say, hey, great initiative. But what are the expectations that are supposed to happen? And how are we holding people accountable to make sure that they deliver? What are the deliverables on this, so that we make sure that at the end of the day, the 133 million, according to the number I think you said, how do we get that to 300 million in terms of showing the return on investment, new jobs created, new businesses opened, all those kinds of things?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm going to tone down my cynicism just a tad, and and be patient and see what. Anyway,
I also know these things take time.
Onward to somebody who actually made something happen, which over to your country there, Trinidad. So basically what has happened is that a Trinidadian online farmers market has launched. It's called linkingfarmers.com. We've heard this before in terms of, but in some countries it really needs to happen and happen well. And so of course, this online farmers market, seeks to connect farmers of locally produced goods, like fruit, vegetables, root crops, vine crops, things like honey and eggs and milk, poultry, fish, to sell their products directly to restaurants and caterers and manufacturers and hotels and retailers. So basically it's trying to eliminate the middleman, but also to create a more strategic and more efficient distribution strategy, and to help the farmers to make some money, make sales. And so this project, as I say, was 3 years in the making, and it's done by this company called Caribbean Chemicals. Weird name, but okay. But anyway, so I'm just saying, I'm happy to see this online farmers market, stuff like this really, really needs to happen. But sometimes when it comes to trying to digitize the agricultural industry, sometimes strategy gets eaten by culture, right?
Yeah,
and
you think,
so,
you think
go ahead, sir.
You think it's only agriculture? I think that for a large part of things that happen in the Caribbean it's par for the course, because our culture, and again, certain people want things, don't like change, they like the status quo. So I don't even think it's only agriculture, but I'm happy to see that this has developed.
Yeah, without question, it needs to happen for at least to try it, and they'll know maybe how better to even work things outside of the digital space a bit. Yeah, so we'll see. So good luck to linkingfarmers.com. I really hope that it becomes efficient and effective and profitable for farmers, because farmers do need to be brought into the digital world, and so that they can see that is actually of great benefit to them in terms of driving sales, being more efficient, have more time to leave the farm and maybe go have a drink somewhere. And the business still goes on. So yeah, so good luck to them. And we really do wish you much success. Okay, so on to one of my favorite things. I love to talk about entrepreneurship and innovation in the Caribbean. So while I was doing some reading and actually preparing a document, preparing a data set, and I tweeted out a little bit in terms of sort of a quick status check of innovation, hubs in the Caribbean. So what I was saying is that it's interesting to see that there's almost like an upswing of carbon accelerators and incubators now in 2022. So Rev Up Caribbean, which is new. And this is really a spawn from the First Angels group here in Jamaica, is new. Canoe Innovation Hub, we spoke about in the last podcast. They're out of Bahamas and they're really kind of more focused on Web3 and crypto. Their 10 Habitat, we've had, Selwyn Cambridge, the CEO of 10 Habitat. They've been at it for 13 years. Draper Startup House is going to launch in Trinidad this year. They've bought, property and are about to launch some things there. Tech Beach Retreat, your friends, they've been going on, I think around 5 years in. And then Founders Institute, Jamaica is back, led by Bianca Wells. Z Labs, led by, Mark Pereira, is in Trinidad, and they're again in the Web3 and fintech space. ZBox is in the French Caribbean. They're focused more on logistics and transportation. So just kind of, I was like, wow. And then I haven't even put everything in there. That's just like off the top of my head.
Right.
Just in terms of like clocking the stuff. And I was like, at the height of what I call the first phase of the development of the Caribbean tech ecosystem, or what I call the startup fetish phase, we had like around 15 innovation hubs. Most of them are primarily powered by World Bank loan money to Caribbean governments. But what I love about this phase of our Caribbean tech ecosystem development is that the returning hubs, the new hubs, are mostly powered by successful entrepreneurs. And so I love to see that. So yeah.
No, I think that because I did see you tweet it out, and I was at LinkedIn. I don't know if you tweet that much anymore.
It goes in waves. It goes in waves.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think 100%. It's fantastic to see that entrepreneurs are now not leaving the success of other entrepreneurs to bureaucrats and people who don't necessarily understand what it takes to build a startup, because they have known what a very secure job is all their life. And so now they're going to try to tell or to help people who are trying to navigate through the winds and the process of being entrepreneurs. So I think that just that understanding of what it is to be an entrepreneur, and the experiences and the ups and downs that entrepreneurs go through. So I know one day Ingrid would go back to her roots of, being in an accelerator, possibly managing one if she doesn't have more gray hair by then. But ultimately, I do think, because you, and the reason why I drew that reference though is because you know what it is to hustle. You know what it is to, okay, these are the highs, these are the lows. Some days I don't, some days I do. But I think that also what we have a lack of in the region sometimes is these mentorship circles, especially among entrepreneurs who have been relatively successful, coming back to share. And because tech is, I think that because we are so far behind in terms of the success of tech companies, that there are very few people who can be, leaders and, be looked at in terms of their experiences in the industry to help Danielle, who is now starting out, to be able to navigate, because Ingrid went through this before. So now she's able to share her experiences and say, okay, talk to this one, talk to that one, do this, do that. And I think that and that's what Silicon Valley and all, even Techstars or Y Combinator and all these accelerators, what they give you really is supposed to be that. And so you're able to see, okay, these are what you're supposed to do from a legal standpoint. This is how you raise funds. Those kinds of things don't necessarily happen, off the back of, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. And so you just dive in. So I do think that these are some positive developments.
Yeah, I mean, I'll push back on it in terms of we're behind. I think we're just in our own state of development, because the Caribbean, basically you can chart the start of our ecosystem from maybe 15 years ago when we started Silicon Caribbean here in Jamaica and then spewed out to the rest of the Caribbean. And of course we've been at it for 15 years, and then 10 Habitat, is 13 years old doing what they do in Jamaica and spewing out to the rest of the Caribbean as well, and the others. And honestly, we consider we're behind, but I think we're just on time for us, because each ecosystem grows at its own pace, and depending on the players taking on particular roles, and knowing that it is a long game. And the people and entities, whether in Silicon Valley in San Francisco, or Silicon Alley, New York, or Silicon Savannah in Kenya, or Silicon Roundabout in London, or where you are, the 305 in Miami, they all have, because even right now, Miami is not as developed as, say, Austin, Texas, or San Francisco, or even New York. You know what I mean? So
but when I talk about the behind, though, I should be more specific. When I talk about being behind, it's not about the technology, because again, I think we have the technologies. I think that we have been developing the technology. I think what I talk about behind is more around the funding aspect of it. And so you realize that so even if Daniel had a brilliant idea and I went and find five developers to churn out this idea, am I ever going to be funded, or how much funding am I going to raise? Is it going to allow me to make this venture sustainable? And so from a funding standpoint, I think that is specifically what I was, but when you start talking funding, everybody starts, but at the end of the day, that is where I think that we are most behind in terms of how many people in the Caribbean have raised at least $1 million.
Yeah.
How many have raised even 500K? How do they even get access? And we were talking about this in, I think, the last episode, but people have to get really creative just to get the money out of even the US and even where they're doing transactions. So I do think that from the funding perspective, I think that being very specific, I think that is where we are behind. But in terms of the technology, I think that we have brilliant technologists. In terms of even some of the infrastructure, I think that we are okay on that. So it's being able to have the funding to be able to catch up with that, because you're right. Just the elements don't necessarily make an ecosystem. And even in the 305, that's kind of some of the problems I see, because the 305 is very good in terms of visibility and branding, but then you start realizing that one cohort doesn't necessarily get the funding than others. And if you're focused on Latin America, sure, you have funding, but if you focus anywhere else or anywhere else, that becomes problematic. So I do think that, you're right, it goes in waves, but I think that specifically we need to figure out how do we get more funding to some of those brilliant entrepreneurs that we have in the region.
Absolutely. And I think part of that is going to be basically amplifying the success stories that we have, whether they've raised funds or they're simply been successful tech businesses or digital businesses. Those stories need to be seen, right? And not just seen by ourselves, but seen by the rest of the world. Because I think again, and this is one of the reasons why we do This Week in Caribbean Tech. One of the reasons why we've been doing Silicon Caribbean for 15 years is to change that narrative that the Caribbean is not just a place you come to get your groove back or your tan on, but it's a place where entrepreneurship, innovation, and excellence lives. And the people to understand us from a data point of view in terms of how we influence industries like remittances and culture and art and sports and help to monetize that, help them to understand the data and the impact and the business opportunities that really is a blind spot for a lot of VCs, angel investors, and just general people, really, to be really honest. Because every time I go on podcasts and tell people all the things that we've been doing at Silicon Caribbean, I've been involved in across the region, and list a whole bunch of people and other organizations that have been doing things for at least a decade, they might drop a ground, right?
Ingrid,
yeah.
and what I would say is that, you know what? You have the receipts.
Yeah.
Others don't have the receipts. Others don't have the institutional knowledge of being around 15 years that you have.
Are you calling me old? You're calling me old, aren't you?
basically, you just celebrate your birthday. That's where we all going, sister. But
I'm still a young Gen Xer.
Okay, very well, ma'am. But as you mentioned, I think was the angel group that you all had in Jamaica was called what?
First Angels.
Angels.
Right.
And as you said, First Angels, it took me back like 10, 11 years, remembering trying to get into First Angels because they were like one of the only ones who were giving funding to Caribbean entrepreneurs at that point in time. And figuring out, okay, how do I connect to these people? And as you said it, it kind of brought back memories of how difficult fundraising was, even for me back then. And so, again, when you can reel off such things off the top of your head without even having to think, for me, I have to dig a bit in my memory bank to remember First Angel. The thing about it is that ultimately, for us to build a better ecosystem, we need to have that foundational knowledge that you have. You're connected, you've gone to Africa, you've gone to Europe, you've gone to different places. You've seen how it's done. You've been to the US, you've been a part of this. And so I think that, when me and you sit down and do have these discussions, even from people who may not understand your background or what you've done, or even from me and how I have been, a part or seen or been, not being able to because of the circumstances of how the Caribbean was constructed, it does shine a light on where we have to do the work. Absolutely. We have to have those people at the table saying, hey, we went down this road before, we did this. That's not going to work because we saw it didn't work the last time. Or this is a way that we tweak it to make sure that we get the results we want. And it's not just about throwing money at the problem, but we want to understand from a data perspective why this didn't work so that we are able to implement better solutions in 10 years time or 5 years time. So we get more money into the hands of the entrepreneurs because, as you know, if you don't have money today, getting the money 10 months down the road doesn't help you with your problem today. Correct. And so those are the things that we need to be able to take into consideration and say, okay, how do we develop better solutions and better systems?
Amen. And that's why data is important, which brings us to the whole point, which is why I said, because we at Silicon Valley, we're about to unleash some data sets that we'll be putting in the form of reports and selling to people across the ecosystem and around the world. One of the ones that we're going to do is around this, basically like a brief history I'm calling it a brief history of the Caribbean tech startup and innovation system, and talks about the hub. So we're going to do a lot of data in terms of who started what, when, what has happened, who has come out of it, where we are. Just a sort of a brief history, but also very significant history. So somebody reading it, they can say, oh, this is what has happened in the Caribbean for the past 15 years, and who has been doing what, and what's been going on, and that kind of a thing. And we're going to be selling it. So if you want to know about that, then go to siliconcaribbean.com, sign up for our newsletter that we send out every Friday, and you'll be the first to know when our data sets and reports drop, so you can cop one of them. But anyway, we have to go to your friend.
Mercy, my friend. Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's a thing in the Caribbean where if somebody says, especially for Jamaican, somebody say, oh, see your friend there? It's never your friend, right? So that's the whole thing. It's never your friend. So I'm teasing him that Elon Musk, his friend Elon Musk, the South African Republican, Trump-loving Elon Musk now owns Twitter.
Hey, you forget the most part. The first part, the free speech loving.
Oh God, yes. That it seems as if you now gonna have to pay for $8 a month for the blue check or whatever it is. But anyway, Elon Musk arrived sometime last week
Last week Friday, ma'am. Last week Friday.
And walked into the HQ with a sink. Yeah, just a sink. It was supposed to be a corny joke, whatever. Anyway, what has since happened is that he has fired the entire board. He has fired top executives from the CEO, from others. He's cleaned house and taken full control because according to him now, his job now is to turn this thing around and make it a profitable, free speech loving platform. And of course, what has happened during that time? Because again, he represents pretty much the left tit of former President Donald Trump. In terms of beliefs and that kind of a thing. It led to the N-word, and people spouting the N-word on the platform that went up over 500%. Yeah, that's the Elon Musk effect, and it's not even a week yet.
The free speech effect. The free speech effect.
Yeah, the free speech effect. So it's interesting because of course America is around less than a week away from their midterm elections, and everybody say, God, Elon Musk, who's a Republican and whatever it is, he's going to bring back Donald Trump on the platform before then. And he actually said he's not going to, if he's bringing back Donald Trump, he's not going to do it until after midterms. And I was like, really, sir? Seriously? Anyway, so yeah, he's back. So we'll see. My own thing is that
I get it, Ingrid. You're
I don't like his ass.
You're feeling that type of way.
I don't like his ass. And I don't like what he's saying. I'm gonna say it. I don't like his ass. And I don't like what he stands for. And I think he's overrated as a billionaire entrepreneur. Yeah, he said that.
Hey, he's the richest man in the world, so he had a receipt here. So yeah,
the receipts. But here's a genius of Elon Musk. He understands how to play the American game, the American business game, and he played it very well. So kudos to him for that, because without question, in America, money comes first, people dead last, right? But anyway, so so it's taken off. So what's your take? Because I'm done with my ranting.
Yeah, I continue to be baffled because she was buying, then he didn't want to buy, then he started buying again, or he was back to buying, then he came in with his sink. And so I'm exhausted about Elon's antics. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Ultimately, I don't think that this has anything to do with free speech. I think ultimately this has to do with power, and
Correct.
This has to do with throwing around the money so that you can self-aggrandize yourself to make yourself more important than you really are. And so I don't know.
Do you think that as a business, because we know that Twitter as an entity has been, losing money for years, and
Right.
It's amassed a whole bunch of debt. And Elon himself bought Twitter for $44 billion US.
Yeah.
And they say that he paid 4 times more than he really should have based on where Twitter is at the moment. And so he's now charged with turning it around and making it into a profitable entity. Do you see that it can be made into a profitable entity?
I would never bet against Elon. That's where I would start. If I look at Tesla, if I look at SpaceX, I think Elon, where his work ethic is, he's a beast. And so I would not bet against him, but I do think that being a profitable business is one thing. I think that the irreparable harm that Elon could do to our society, and to that whole notion of free speech and being able to have conversation, and people may think it's a small thing, but the misinformation that happens in, because even with this Nancy Pelosi's husband story, and Elon tweeted out
Exactly. And I
this
was,
false
and I was
story and then
exactly.
deleted it, right? A little while after. But the fact is that here's the CEO now of Twitter, whatever he calls himself, the chief twit. He tweets out this and then he pulls it back. So
And it makes news, which he knew he was going to, because he knows that he has the attention.
Thank you very much. And so that's what my overall feeling though about Elon and this whole deal is that, hey, here's what he just bought this so that he can be a media oligarch. I'm not sure if you ever watched that Murdoch's documentary on CNN. I started watching it.
But he's another one, yes.
but yeah, Mr. Fox. But you realize that these guys have used their media. And while people may hate on Zuck, I don't know that Zuck is as much of a attention seeker as somebody like Elon. And he did not necessarily weaponize Facebook to basically make it about himself. So yes, Facebook has been weaponized without a doubt. But the fact is, it's that his ultimate objective is not self-aggrandizement. With Elon, you could see it, even the antics with the sync. Hey, it's about me. I'm Elon. I'm this. I'm that. Okay. So ultimately, maybe taking a page out of Trump's book, ultimately you see that Elon objective about buying this platform isn't about me and you. It's about him. And so that's kind of where I, fall on the issue.
But another billionaire boy with their media toy.
Yeah, and so I think he may turn around Twitter. I just tell you, I won't be paying for a blue check mark. I won't be paying any money for it. No, so I'm like, hey.
Not at all. Or the plan might if anything. So
yeah.
But then again, of course, now that Jack Dorsey has sold Twitter, he went and not even a day after, he announced that he has launched Blue Sky in beta. Of course, I've signed up for it. It's a decentralized social network that is supposedly said to be a rival of Twitter. So he has gone and launched Blue Sky, which has already gotten over 30,000 signups in a matter of days. I am one of them for the beta testing. So Jack didn't skip a beat. He says, "Thank you for the money. But yeah, we've been working on something over here. So you can have Twitter and I'm gonna have Blue Sky. So I'll meet you in the market." And here's the other thing too, that I don't know if you noticed, the very day that Elon took over Twitter, when you scrolled over to Instagram and Instagram desktop, you will have noticed that it pretty much snatched the entire UI. It snatched Twitter's design face and imported it over to IG. And I was like, hold on, what's going on here? I was like, but this looks like, I thought I was on Twitter, but that actually was on IG. They snatched the end, and it came the day Elon took over Twitter. That was pretty much like Zuckerberg saying, yeah, I'll meet you in the market. It's funny, these billionaire boys and their media toys. It's funny as hell. Yeah.
Like I say, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to keep up with. It's exhausting to keep up with Elon's antics.
And just, I can't be bothered. I'm over it now. I just watch. I say if I want to move, I'll move. And so yeah.
No, but it is necessary because we follow the tech space. So for us, we have to just understand what's going on. But
I guess
the antics are a bit exhausting. I would say, just from that standpoint. And I think that in addition to, I think that government needs to figure out how to start regulating these companies. I think that they are doing enough harm to society at this stage, and especially around misinformation and disinformation.
They're too centralized. They're too centralized. They have a lot of power, and they while they've made a lot of money having allowed for entrepreneurship and unbridled capitalism to flow. There's just too much power concentrated in just a too few hands. And the US government actually has started to police Twitter, Facebook, IG, the whole bunch of them a lot more, just because of that, because of the misinformation. And so, yeah, so we'll see. Of course, we have to keep our eyes on it. And whatever new stuff is out there, we're on it because we have to test it and then tell you all about it and see if it makes sense for us as well. Anyway, the last thing before we go. My favorite Caribbean economist, who happens to be Trini, but lives in Barbados, Marla Dukaran, is having her Caribbean Economic Outlook Conference in the Metaverse. So she announced it on LinkedIn this week and on Twitter today as well, that in a couple of weeks, you pay $150 and you can enter the Metaverse to see her deliver the Caribbean Economic Outlook. So that should be interesting. I'm gonna go because I want to see how it's done. And it's not just her, but she has a few other speakers. And I want to hear what she has to say because I love her perspective. She's very fearless and one of those very saucy, sassy, outrageously brilliant Caribbean women.
I think you should have her on the reparations committee. I'm just saying.
Yeah, outside of your friend. We were talking about that in the next episode.
Wow.
Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up. That's it this week, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching to This Week in Caribbean Tech from Silicon Caribbean. If you have gotten anything of value, please comment below, beside, wherever it is that you have on the platform that you're listening to, you're watching on. Click that like button, give us a rating, and of course, be generous and share it with your friends and your colleagues. Of course, you can watch us on Silicon Caribbean TV on YouTube, and you can listen to us on 9 podcast platforms, including Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Spotify. So, sir, you know, what are you doing for the rest of the week?
Work.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's like, yeah. That was clearly a dumb question.
You walk right into that one. No, but
we both run businesses. Yeah, right. Work.
Yep, work. The weekend hoping to get some time off before presentation, and I think I'm going to go to Afrotech week after. So
I've been wanting to go to Afrotech for years, and I'm a fan of Morgan for sure, and what she's doing with media and across different things. Where we have similar paths in terms of being a media entrepreneur and doing some interesting things, but not for tech, but other sectors as well. So you're gonna pop across there? Oh Lord.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I just got in my mail I got my pass.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I'll go spend a few days over there, and next week I have some presentation. So yeah, that's me. That's, work is what we do. We are the stage of life where we work and then we get to retire, hopefully successfully, Ingrid.
Yes, we work and we should enjoy the journey while we work, and then never retire, because why bother to retire? You know what I mean? Work less for sure.
Work less.
Work a lot less. But anyway, guys, take it easy. Have a fantastic weekend, and we see you next Friday with another episode of This Week in Caribbean Tech. Take it easy.
Bye.